Staying cool at the Olympics is serious business. Organisers of the Paris Games are talking big things about sustainability. They're planning to halve the carbon footprint of the London 2012 and Rio 2016 Games. Part of that plan is getting rid of air conditioning. But last month they backflipped after fierce criticism from experts and athletes. Now, after paying billions of dollars to host the Games, they're asking countries to chip in to pay for their own air conditioning. So why do they need it? Well, the Olympics are getting hotter and hotter. We checked the heat and humidity of the Games over the last 50 years. The last Games, in Tokyo in 2021, were the hottest overall, with a wet bulb temperature of nearly 25 degrees. But what's all this about humidity? Why can't we just use temperature instead? Well, our internal body temperature likes to sit at around 36 to 37 degrees Celsius. Our skin's a bit cooler at 35. But when it's just as hot outside, our bodies turn to sweat to keep us cool. But here's the kicker. All that sweat only works if it's evaporating off our skin. When it's humid outside as well as hot, that sweat does nothing. It starts to drip off our skin, and it doesn't cool us down. Conditions at recent Olympics have already entered territory that's difficult for people to deal with, even if they're not competing. Athletes train for years to be the best. Now, as well as competing with each other, they're competing with the temperature. So how do they cool down?
I mean, from a thermal perspective, you'd almost want them to be in air-conditioned areas the whole time, except when they're training. That's really a day-to-day thing. You then might be looking at adding a bit of extra salt to the diet just to try and increase fluid intake. Before an event, you might see people wearing an ice vest or something that helps keep the body cool. People might drink an ice slurry or something very cold liquid that goes right into the center of your body, cools you down from there. Inside, people also take ice baths before an event to cool their body down. In terms of the actual events themselves, if it's like a heat wave in France, the marathon's going to be run slow, for example, because everyone's body's going to be trying to just hold back. It's quite hard to do this right now. And with team sports, you'll see football players running less. Tennis players take more time between points to do things as well. Once the event finishes, what do you do then? And that's normally just cooling them down. Again, cold water immersion at the end, so ice baths recover, get the body temperature down. And that's particularly important for people that are doing events that are going to take place over multiple days.
The Games have changed a lot in the last century. They aren't mainly held in Europe and the US anymore. Recent Games have been held in Australia, Japan, Brazil, all countries that have very different climates. For a while, the Games were scheduled to accommodate this, like the 2000 Sydney Games that were held in September and October, the Southern Hemisphere's spring. But recent Games have all been held in July and August, even if it's the hottest time of year. Of course, climate change is making things hotter everywhere. Paris last hosted the Games in 1924, a century ago, and we spent 100 years breaking records everywhere. But the city is now 1.5 degrees hotter than it was back then, and it isn't cooling down anytime soon.